guys, welcome to the Cinematics Panel Update Guide for Game Touch Controller. Right off the bat, the first thing you need to know is we need to have VJoy installed. There's a shortcut on the server if you haven't already installed VJoy, and to run the calibration, and there's a previous guide video on how to do that. But if you've already done that, the next thing you want to do is when you're in Star Citizen, if it's the first time you're loading the software, it's the first time you've installed VJoy, it's going to add a joystick device to your system. If you didn't already have a joystick device in the past, you'll now get down the bottom right here, if you go to Star Citizen Controls, go across to HOTAS, and you'll have a HOTAS listed there. If you go into the key bindings, again, make sure down the bottom right you go across to Joystick HOTAS and Advanced Controls Customization. If you don't use any other joysticks, the first thing you're going to want to do, because Star Citizen will bind all of the virtual joystick controls to any number of things in here, is just go through and unbind anything that's listed in any of these controls for the VJoy. That will stop it interfering with any of the other buttons that you're pushing. And once it's all unbound, now you're good to go to start setting up the controls. For those of you that already had joysticks or had it installed in the past, then you won't have to worry about that. So the first thing you're going to want to set up is the keybind section. So down the bottom right, make sure you set to keyboard and mouse, and then up the top left, go to the third option down, which is Vehicles View, and we need to set the look left, look right, look up, and look down buttons. By default, Game Touch Controller has them set to minus, equals, apostrophe, and semicolon, but you can use essentially any buttons you want, and we'll cover off on how to do that later. But if you want to use the defaults, then just bind those buttons, minus, equals, to look left and look right, and apostrophe and semicolon to look up and look down. If you don't know how to bind controls, you just double click, it says waiting for input, and then you push the respective button, in this case minus, and it will come up with minus. And once you've done those four, so you've done look left, look right, look up, and look down, the next thing you want to do is move over to the joystick HOTAS section. Now that you have a joystick HOTAS installed, for those installing VJoy for the first time and don't have sticks, and for those who do, you need to make sure that you know which joystick HOTAS that you're binding them to. So in the vehicles view, the first thing I want to set up is the look left and right, which is look left right, not the look left and look right. And we do that, next thing on Game Touch Controller itself, the third button in from the right above the cameras next to the select pan preset save, it will say key by default. If you push that, it will change to joy, and you'll get a picture of a joystick over on the left hand side. The next button next to that is on command, and we push that and it will change to real time. And what this is going to do is that anything that you do for the cinematic controls will happen in real time, so it's easy for us to bind the controls. Then we just simply double click on the look left/right option and move the joystick to the left or right, and it will say rebinding x-axis. If you move it too high or low, it will probably rebind to the y-axis, so just be aware of that. And then we do the same thing for look up down, hit reset on Game Touch Controller up the top left to put the joystick back in the center, double click the look up down and move the joystick down or up, and it will bind to the y-axis. Then we hit reset again to recenter it, and the next thing we do is the zoom in and zoom out third person views. And so we double click on zoom in and we move the zoom slider on the right hand side up and hit yes, and that will bind to button 4. Again, reset by hitting the top left hand reset button, then double click to zoom out and move the zoom slider down for out, hit yes, and it will bind to button 5. Hit reset again to recenter it. The next thing, just minimize back the vehicles view, scroll down and go to on foot all. It's just between lights and EVA. Open that up, and there's a look yaw and look pitch option here. So for look yaw, double click, this is the x-axis again, so double click, move the Game Touch joystick to the left, hit yes to bind it, recenter, and do the same thing for the pitch, which is up and down, or the y-axis. Double click, move it down, it will bind to the y-axis, hit recenter, and then scroll down until you see zoom out ADS and zoom in ADS. It's around the other way to the ones at the top, so this time the top one, zoom out, We double click that, move the zoom slider down for zoom out, hit yes, recenter, zoom in, double click, move the zoom slider up, yes, and top left reset to recenter again. Then we can scroll up and minimize on foot all, and then go down to ground vehicles general, which is just below it. And we do the same thing for the look left right and look up down. So the look left right, we double click, move the joystick to the left or right, and that will change to X, hit recenter, double click, move it up or down, it'll change to the Y, yes, and recenter. And you now have all of the controls bound that you need to get the cinematics panel working for you in game. So change it back from real time to on command, turn joy off so it's back to key, and we're essentially back to our defaults.